The vast majority of the episodes on this podcast focus on digital marketing and more specifically social media, and rightly so. So much of our communities are online, and the world has gone only more in on digital connection during the pandemic. But just because it's a primary way to market your church doesn't mean it's the only way to market your church. On today's episode of the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast, we're talking with an experienced marketing professional who will help us expand our horizons and perhaps even remind us of some tried and true techniques that still have value. Thank you to everybody for listening. My name is Dan Wunderlich. I'm a United Methodist pastor, and our guest today is Larry Fairley. Larry is the president and CEO of Marketing Resource Solutions, a full-service marketing firm that has been a great partner for our denomination on many projects. Larry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, Dan, thank you so very much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be with you.
That's great. Well, let's begin by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into marketing.
Well, as you stated, I'm the president and CEO of Marketing Resource Solutions. We go by MRS. I founded the company 20 years ago. We're based out of Jamestown, North Carolina. I got into the advertising business in high school. One summer, I was working in a print shop at a local school. And after I graduated from high school, I went on to college, obtaining degrees in printing technologies and advertising management. I then went on to work for a couple of mid-sized printing companies before landing a job with an international direct marketing firm, calling on major brands predominantly on the East Coast. The catalyst for me for starting my own business was something that I dreamed about as a young boy. And after years in corporate America, I felt that my growth had plateaued. I had
Mm.
completed the business plan for the company while working on my MBA and decided to dust it off and give it a go. 20 years later, the company is thriving and experiencing rapid growth.
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to hear more about MRS and your team, and specifically the kind of work you've done in partnership with the United Methodist Church and perhaps some of your other clients.
MRS is a full service advertising agency specializing in the strategic planning and execution of our clients' multicultural, diversity, and faith based related marketing initiatives. We use our experience along with consumer insights to develop and deploy strategies that help our clients reach their target audience in a fashion that resonates with them. This is the work that we do. We align our team, technology, and other resources to match our clients' needs in the development of a customized service delivery model. We start by listening. It's amazing what you can learn by listening,
That's
and
true.
and through that, we take the client's requirements and inputs, and we synthesize them to provide us with what we need to deliver upon the client's request, and thereby exceeding their expectations.
Mm.
Our job is to make it easy for our clients such that they love working with us. When done correctly, we become integral to their supply chain. They come to rely on us. As opposed to us simply delivering a product or a service, we provide much more and cultivate deep relationships. Our client roster includes the likes of Denny's, BMW, the United Methodist Church, of course, Volvo and Mack Trucks, Southeastern Grocers, Atrium Health, NRB TV, to name a few. We work closely with the folks at United Methodist Communications, particularly the Connectional Giving team. There, we execute numerous projects with them, including the Special Sundays Pastors and Leaders Kits, a series of resources for them to use in their church, and other church-wide offerings. We support them as well. We do everything from the copywriting to the design of these resources. We also handle and execute the denomination handbook, and again, all
Right.
the design elements and the production of that as well. Additionally, the member digest, which is the members handbook. We recently completed a very large, comprehensive digital campaign entitled Did You Know? The campaign was intended to raise awareness about the numerous programs and resources and outreach that the church has. Going back a few years, we had the unique pleasure of working on a program called Imagine No Malaria. We
Right. Yeah.
yeah, we were the lead creative agency in this global fight against malaria. It was a partnership with the United Methodist Church, United Nations, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we were able to do some great work for a great cause. Additionally, through United Methodist Communications, we get a chance to work with African University. We also get a chance to work with global ministries, including the Advance. Other United Methodist General agencies that we work for include GCORE, General Commission on Religion and Race. We
Mm,
recently completed a customer and constituent survey to better understand the wants, needs, and desires that they have of the agency. We're now using those results as a part of a brand refresh for them. And we've also worked with COSRO, the Commission and Status and Role of Women,
right.
and the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry.
Well, Larry, that's awesome. You guys are doing so much heavy lifting for us as a denomination. I know as a local pastor, it's hard enough to just think about stewardship and raising funds for what's going on in in your local church. And so, to say, Larry, uh, help me convince the local pastor to give to things beyond just their local church. I mean, that is not an easy ask. And then also just being a part of an international denomination with so many agencies who are not competing with one another. We're partners with one another, but there's still only so much bandwidth that the average layperson has, the average local church has to share what's going on internationally. I just have to say thank you for all the work you've been doing for us and with us.
Oh, no doubt. And we love working with the denomination. Our relationship with the denomination goes back 20 plus years since I founded the company. Fantastic people to work with and to be able to do great work, this great work, God's work is a unique pleasure for us.
That's awesome. Well, as I said in the intro, we local church communicators, we can really pigeonhole ourselves and our thinking about church marketing, whether it's only focusing on a single channel like social media, or even just assuming that marketing is mostly advertising. And let's be honest, many of our church social media posts are just ads we don't spend money on. I would imagine this isn't just a church specific problem. You've got a whole roster of non church clients as well. Is this something that you encounter with your range of clients, either just a singular focus on one channel to the exclusion of others, or even just a fundamental misunderstanding of what marketing is and can be?
Yes, we do have clients that have a single focus marketing approach, but we also have clients who are working across multiple channels. One thing that we've noticed, however, is that there's often a lack of a well thought out strategy across their marketing efforts.
Mm,
Whether a client wants to place all of their eggs in the social media basket or focus more broadly on different types of advertising opportunities. We're advocates of listening to the insights and have them help inform the marketing strategy. What's most important to us is that our clients understand the value in creating that roadmap to guide all of the marketing efforts and how each effort fits together like a puzzle.
mm.
The marketing discipline has so many channels that can be employed and should be utilized to create an integrated marketing strategy. It's important to know the marketing tools available.
It sounds to, and I'll say I'm right with you, Larry. Actually, my undergrad degree is in advertising. I was the last class to Facebook literally hit our campus while I was a student, and so I was kind of the last class to learn old school advertising. But I'm with you with all this, and so maybe for some of our listeners who are maybe local pastors who have no experience in marketing but are doing this work because they have no one else, or volunteers, or even paid staff who are in the church communications job because they've like learned Photoshop or are good at video editing, but maybe don't have that undergirding of marketing. What I hear you saying is kind of the key between just creating an ad and actually having a marketing plan is that underlying strategy. Can you kind of shed just a little bit more light on how deep you understand marketing going within the total package of church communications?
Well, look, I think that marketing is multifaceted, and I think you're very fortunate to have learned old school marketing because I think it's still relevant.
Yeah.
And needless to say, as marketing comes in a lot of forms and fashion, and has numerous definitions. There are a couple that I'll share. Marketing is any action a company takes to attract an audience to the company's product or service through high quality messaging.
Mm,
Marketing is all about demonstrating value, strengthening a brand's loyalty, and ultimately increasing sales. And then you can approach it through the old school way of looking at marketing, the 4 Ps, the product, place, price, and promotion. But at its core, it's all about building brand equity to increase revenue and or engagement. And again, for us, what's really really important is using consumer insights,
mm, mhm.
understanding your audience very, very well, such that no matter what approach you take, that you'll have the ability to resonate, that your message resonates with the audience, such that it's received very, very well by them.
Well, you have a really great example in your stable of clients and in one of your projects in particular, and that's your work with Denny's, the restaurant chain. It sounds to me like what you're saying is it doesn't really matter how cool the fonts are and how sweet the graphics are. The point is we're trying to create value for both the people who are the customers of the company, but also create value for the company and or organization or church to kind of deepen that relationship. And sometimes that is more than just saying, hey, church is at this time on this day. And here's the address. See you then. It's about creating a deeper connection. And so this sounds like something to me when I was exploring your website, something you were able to do with Denny's. And so tell us a little bit about the program you were able to spearhead with them.
Well, and Dan, you're spot on. The marketing discipline is intended to support the business's objectives. It is intended to support the goals and objectives of the organization.
Hmm.
You can go around and you can develop some really splashy and cool ad campaigns, but at the end of the day, the question is whether or not your efforts help advance the organization to meet its goals and objectives. That's what the marketing discipline is all about.
Mm.
You speak of Denny's. This is a long term relationship that we've been in with them. However, prior to this 10-year relationship with them, I called on them 7 years before getting our first project with them. I shared with them a recently completed diversity report for another client. They loved the concept and allowed us to begin working on one for them. The Denny's Diversity Report focuses on the company's efforts in 4 key areas, and that's workforce diversity, franchisee diversity, supplier diversity, and community relations.
Mm.
It was a big success. And 10 years later, we're in the process of planning this year's report. The success of this project afforded us with an opportunity to work with the brand in other areas where we're now their diversity and experiential events agency. Our most recent work with the brand, Denny's, focuses on supporting the implementation of their diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy and the Hunger for Education scholarship program that we developed for them.
Well, in this one program, it was able to bring really a couple of important issues front and center. It created this scholarship fund that you talked about, which helps them invest in promising young people, and it also created a competition. Basically, the scholarship wasn't just random; it had entrants come up with a plan to combat childhood hunger, and so this is a way of Denny saying we don't just care, because a lot of people can say we care, but they actually supported and are investing in solutions. They are pouring money into developing solutions, but they're also pouring money into the people who can actually carry those programs through. And so, this Denny Scholarship Fund doesn't end with and come eat pancakes at Denny's on a Saturday morning. It actually does something much deeper than that. And I'd love to hear you talk about how this fits into the vision of what marketing can be when it's done really well and gets outside of the box of just come and spend your money at our store.
Yeah, I mean, the Hunger for Education Scholarship Program does something deeper. It impacts people's lives in a fashion that demonstrates Denny's cares. When the new Denny's CEO came on board, he wanted to ensure the company's philanthropic efforts aligns with the needs of minority communities. Denny's head of diversity reached out to us to support in this effort. They had conducted some research that indicated childhood hunger and education were the two primary areas where minorities felt that corporations should engage.
Mm,
The CEO wanted to pursue childhood hunger. That was a cause that he had a passion for. And we wanted to pursue education because we were always told growing up, get your education, get your education, get your education.
right.
And so the CEO clearly, being the CEO, was going to win out in this case. But what we were able to do is we were able to combine the two.
Yeah.
We developed a scholarship program that awarded scholarships to students for their ideas on how Denny's could fight childhood hunger in their community.
Mm,
Magical. We went on to develop the naming, the identity, the program design, and implementation. Where in the process, we work with some of the nation's largest minority advocacy and civil rights organizations. The program has gone well beyond philanthropy. It is now core to Denny's DEI and multicultural marketing initiatives. In 2019, the scholarship program launched and executed its first Black college tour, visiting 7 HBCU campuses, including Claflin and Atlanta, which are two UMC affiliated institutions.
that's awesome.
So yeah, so it was really nice to bring Denny's and the United Methodist Church, bring those two brands together. But more importantly, it demonstrated that Denny's cares. They care about you. They care about your family. They care about your community, and they're willing to demonstrate it in vitally important areas that affect low-income communities and communities of color. These scholarship winners are now advocating on behalf of the brand.
Mm,
I
hmm.
think it's important for the church as well. People have to see that you care
Right.
and that you're willing to meet them where they are. Christ demonstrated his love for us in his actions and his deeds, not just his words. He met us where we were. He accepted us as we were. The church has to do the same. I feel the
Mm,
United Methodist Church has a competitive advantage. Not only does it have a Lord and Savior they can market, but they have so many programs, including
yeah.
scholarships and mission work that they can offer. This aligns well with a younger audience as it demonstrates that you care. So, this is something I feel strongly about as it relates to reaching your audience in a fashion that resonates with them. You got to demonstrate that you care about them, and you'll have a lot of success.
When I want to highlight the fact that, childhood hunger and the scholarship funds are not things that Larry just dreamed up on his own. As he has said multiple times in this interview, he listened to the customers. And I think so many times that I find myself stuck, whether it's in the church communications aspect or honestly, I'm a local pastor, I'm a senior pastor. I have to preach practically every Sunday. Sometimes I sit down and I don't know what I should say. That's maybe not so much a sign that I'm out of ideas, but so much that I'm not listening enough. And so when we find ourselves at a loss, perhaps the best thing to do is to go grab coffee, go to Denny's, grab some breakfast with someone from your community, either inside the church or outside of the church, and just talk to them. In our last episode, which it hasn't come out yet, so Larry hasn't heard it, but one of our key points from our last episode was demonstrate to your community we care about what you care about, but you can't demonstrate that if you don't know what they care about. And so listening just sounds like It sounds like step one, or maybe like step the pre-work that many of us just skip right over.
That's well stated, Dan. That is very well stated.
Well, to me, this is also a really great example of thinking outside of the usual channels we tend to gravitate to in the church marketing world. And of course, one of the benefits of working with a marketing team like yours is getting to work with creative professionals who spend their entire week, every day of every week, thinking about how to reach people, how to listen, how to think outside the box. But of course, there are many churches working on shoestring budgets when it comes to marketing and advertising. They can't afford to hire outside help, but they do want to look for inspiration. And I do want to highlight Larry's site. You have a blog with trends and tips, and I found those to be really helpful. But in addition to your site, Larry, what are some of the places that you and your team look for inspiration? Or if we find ourselves mostly just looking at other churches for inspiration and we want to look into the wider world of marketing, what are some brands or organizations or even industries that you think are doing really good out of the box work?
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of them out there right now that are really doing some great work. One of the things that we do, and that I would recommend that any church does, is that we carve out substantial meeting time every month, and what we've entitled our innovation sessions. This is where we all bring insights into the latest trends in various areas, including industry, diversity, faith, multicultural marketing, generational trends, content consumption trends. We bring all these to the table once a month, and we go through them to kind of understand what's happening in the marketplace. If your brand can't afford to hire an agency, or your church can't afford to hire an agency, I'd recommend getting in the habit of reading a lot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Commit to learning daily. In this industry, things move fast.
That's right.
Think about how quickly memes and the internet trends cycle into and out of public attention. If you're not paying attention, you can miss those moments and miss the cultural relevance behind them that are driving attention and spending patterns. So, you can learn a lot. There's a lot of information out there, and I would just suggest staying abreast of it. It'll expand your horizon and make you understand that there are a lot of things that are available to you that are very cost effective as well.
That's great. That's great to know that there are resources out there, there are answers out there. Hop on Google, email someone like Larry for some recommendations, or local companies in your area that I'm sure would love to help out. But Larry, I have to admit, part of why we got connected is I told our awesome showrunner Josh that I wanted to learn more about direct mail, and that was kind of a selfish question of mine. My church is exploring it. We haven't done it in a long time, if ever. Maybe when we were founded 21 years ago and the church was just getting off the ground. But I just have this curious question I can't let go of. After a year of feeling like everything in the world is now online, is it maybe time to try something old school? Something people can hold in their hands and not just scroll by. So, what do you think, Larry? Is direct mail specifically still something that's worth the investment, even if you aren't some national brand or law firm or realtor?
I do think that direct mail is still something that's worth the investment. The physical mailbox is unsaturated right now, okay,
Mm,
because most people have moved into the digital environment. However, 37% of people surveyed say they look forward to receiving mail each day. And then on top of that, direct mail has staying power. Uh,
that's right.
while emails are here and gone, the average lifespan of a direct mail piece sticking around is 17 days.
It's much longer in my house if you look at the entryway table.
Mine as well. And then, there are other facets to direct mail that make it attractive and still viable. Direct mail is interactive, because the customer physically handles the piece and
Hmm.
usually look at it before deciding whether to keep it. Direct mail can help get more eyes on your marketing. And particularly if you include some type of promotional offer, or coupon, or call to action that requires them to do something with the mailer,
Mm.
such as bring it to the store, to the restaurant, or to the church, for that matter. Direct mail can also appeal to your sense of feel and smell and sound. An example, in my former career, when working with a large direct marketing firm, an automotive dealer sent out a highly personalized direct mail piece. All right? Upon opening the piece, it released the fresh smell of new car leather.
That's awesome.
All right. And then they combined it, of course, with database marketing where they had knew a lot about the consumer. And so they put a personalized message in there to the prospect. And in addition to that, the color of the car was the favorite color of the recipient. So they appeal to numerous areas, numerous senses, and so these are some of the types of innovations that you can drive and interaction that you can drive with direct mail. It's also, memorable. It can evoke nostalgia about times friends or family sent you mail. And if you'd like to spark a more emotional response in the recipient, consider, a personalized touch like a handwritten note or signature. Small gestures like this can make your marketing more memorable. It can have a bigger reach, and this is one that's really important for the church. Direct mail can also reach a wider demographic than electronic advertising. If your
Yeah.
target audience is less likely to use social media or email, the potential customers, when all electronic ads, would have missed them completely.
Mm,
This is most prevalent with an older demographic who still likes to write and mail checks. Okay,
that's right.
and direct mail is critically important in your fundraising efforts. I would say it's vitally important in your fundraising efforts. It offers a lot of ways, okay, to be creative. You pair it with your social media and other digital content marketing, and direct mail, can create a seamless customer journey. There's not much competition. Companies are scaling back their physical marketing efforts in favor of digital marketing.
Mm,
Digital is more environmentally friendly route, and it's also easier to start seeing results with digital. But because not as many companies are operating in the direct mail space these days, it's easier to get noticed.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so direct mail still has relevance and still can be very effective and should be part of a broader integrated marketing strategy.
Well, and I'll say, certain. I had not even, for whatever reason, I had not thought about all of those folks who just don't interact digitally or don't interact digitally much. But I'll even say for those who do, I have like, every ad blocker under the sun on all of my browsers. And I know how to identify an ad as I'm scrolling social media and I know how to go right past it. And so it's got to be something, extremely, unique or special or exactly what I'm looking for a digital ad to be effective with me nowadays, or at least that's what I tell myself. Who knows, who knows how much Big Brother is in my brain or not. But
Indeed,
so I
indeed.
think there's even an opportunity to reach digital natives and digital first people through physical mail, as long as they're remembering to check their mail, because they might completely scroll past. And what I liked, you talked about, coordinating the two. If you have a strong color palette or a strong visual that you can use on the physical marketing piece, it gets in their brain, and then when they see it on digital, maybe they stop and take a look because it looks familiar, and so they want to take a second to try to think, where have I seen this before? And so by connecting those two medium together, you actually make it much more likely people are going to stop.
I think that that's spot on. I mean, people will at least skim through their mail before throwing it away, and a colorful, creative piece of mail has a much better chance of standing out in someone's mailbox than your website does on
Right.
Google. Okay, people don't expect direct mail as much in this modern age. They aren't subjected to the same distractions when looking through physical mail as they are when they're online as well.
Mm. Well, Larry, are there any other marketing tools that maybe get overlooked because they're not new and flashy, but you think are still worth taking a look at?
Absolutely. For me, and particularly as you answer this question from a standpoint of the church, But for all marketers, email marketing is still highly effective. Email marketing gets the highest response rate of any
Mm,
medium. And I strongly suggest that it's a part of your marketing strategy. Facebook ads. Facebook ads have evolved since the platform started back in 2004,
absolutely.
but they're also still highly effective. They give you an opportunity to niche all the way down to your target audience, reaching them based on their variety of interest. Events. I strongly recommend getting involved in the event space. Churches have to go out and meet people where they are. I mentioned events. Churches can go and set up a simple 6 foot table at an event for outreach and an invitation to worship with them. They can also use this to cultivate their
Hmm.
list for the direct
Right.
mail, cultivate their list for their email marketing as well. It's very inexpensive and it demonstrates the church's commitment. Word of mouth advertising. Your parishioners, your members are your best brand evangelists
Right.
that you can have. They indeed should be out evangelizing on behalf of the church. Lastly, depending on your target market, direct mail is also still highly effective. When Gen Zers are scrolling on their phones for most of the day, baby boomers and some Gen Xers are still loyal to snail mail. Point being, your marketing tools should be hyper targeted to the audience you're looking to reach.
Mm. Well, Larry, I want to ask you one more favor. So many of our listeners are down in the trenches like you are, day in and day out, and I'm sure over the 20 years or more, you've been doing this work a lot longer, but even just the 20 years of your company, you have had the experience we have, where we have an idea that we think is excellent, and it generates no response. And then other times we throw something together, and it's suddenly the greatest thing in the world, and we just feel like we don't really know what's going on. And of course, all of us, yourself, myself, all of our listeners, we're likely coming out of the hardest year we've ever had doing this kind of work. So, as someone who has dedicated decades of his life to this work, what keeps you coming back day in and day out? What keeps you wanting to find new and fresh ideas? Just what words of encouragement do you have for us?
Well, every day we try to think of the next great idea to advance our client's business. That's our challenge. We're in the idea business, and as a result, we can never rest on our laurels. My thirst for learning and an ongoing commitment to excellence is what keeps me coming back. I think it's critical for brands, including the church, to be well positioned to engage a rapidly growing multicultural market. This is the fastest growing segment of the population.
Yeah.
We must attract and be in fellowship with people who are different, whether
Mm,
it be race, gender, or age. And speaking of age, Gen Z cohorts are all about being authentic.
mm,
So they want to know that you're genuine and that you really care. Reaching out to multicultural audiences and younger demographics is critical, as again, these are the fastest growing segments of the population. The United Methodist Church, to me, has a competitive advantage. As I stated earlier, it not only has a Lord and Savior they can market, they have
yeah.
so many other programs and initiatives available, including scholarships and mission work. This aligns well with a younger audience. So let's use every marketing tool, old and new, to go make disciples of Jesus Christ. And at MRS, we know how to support brands and aligning with these audiences. This is what we do.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much for your time today. If we do have listeners that want to follow your work and the work of MRS or even reach out and say hi, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can reach us on our website at reachmrs.com, on Instagram at reachmrs agency, on Twitter at reachmrs, and on Facebook and LinkedIn at Marketing Resource Solutions.
Awesome. Well, Larry, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Dan, thank you so very much for having me. Thank you for your patience with me during this journey, and I so appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, now, listeners, we want to hear from you. What are some of the avenues you're thinking of exploring that might be overlooked? Are there any old school methods that are either working for you or that you're looking to bring back at this time? Email us at podcast@umcom.org. And of course, you can always use that email, podcast@umcom.org, to send us any feedback or topic suggestions for the show. I always love hearing from you. As always, the easiest way to support the show and help other church communicators like yourself find it is by sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues and by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever service you're listening to right now. And did you know that the United Methodist Communications Agency is celebrating 80 years of ministry? Your support ensures that the latest denominational news, dynamic stories, and informative articles will continue to connect our global community. You can make a tax-deductible donation today at resourceumc.org/giveumcom. That's resourceumc.org/GIVEUMCOM. Thanks again for listening to the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast.